So a lot of people think that I'm being hyperbolic when I say that Joe Biden, at one point at least, was a racist and a segregationist. But I'm not exaggerating at all. And with this quote from Joe Biden, you're going to wonder once again why the hell anyone thinks that they can take the moral high ground by voting for Joe Biden in November. Let's talk about it. So, if you are curious as to how I dichotomize racism and segregationist, racism is bad. Unfortunately, it's somewhat normal to varying degrees, right? Now, most people, even the worst of them, will keep their racism to themselves for the most part until they're around people or peers who feel the exact same way. Now, although that is bad, segregation is a step beyond just simple racism. It's just you're racist, but you have so much disdain for another race that you would be willing to use your institutional power to ensure their oppression in any way you can. You are infringing upon their liberties with your inherent advantages in order to stop them from prospering. That's a whole different category. And I make that dichotomy because it's important when we're discussing people like Joe Biden and why you can never in your life convince this black man to vote for somebody who hasn't even apologized for the views that they used to hold or the things that they've said. So let's look at this quote from Joe Biden. This is from an article on the Business Insider in July 2019. So this was being discussed, at least written about. However, of course, as you probably imagine, the mainstream media has completely ignored this. Just they threw it in the cave and just pretend like it doesn't exist. Like this isn't a big deal. Like if Bernie Sanders hadn't said something like that. Listen. Okay, let's check this out. Former Vice President Joe Biden is facing increased scrutiny over his record on busing and racial issues. And this week, old comments resurfaced in which he said in 1977 that non-orderly racial integration policies would cause his children to grow up in a racial jungle. The quote was originally discovered by the University of Southern California Law School professor and scholar Daria Rothmeier and first reported by the New York Times, which published a lengthy story on Biden's record on busing and school desegregation on Monday morning. In the quote, which appears to come from a congressional hearing related to anti-busing legislation, Biden emphasized wanting to ensure that we do have orderly integration of society, adding that he was not just talking about education, but all society. Oh God. For further context, he then said, unless we do something about this, my children are going to grow up in a jungle, and the jungle being a racial jungle, with tensions having built up so high that it is going to explode at some point. We got to make some move on this. Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, this wasn't at one of his tailgates at a baseball game or before a baseball game. He wasn't having this conversation in the backyard at a cookout. It would have still been wrong, but everybody says stupid stuff when they're by themselves sometimes, especially in the 70s when you're racist. But this man, as a senator, was giving a speech on Capitol Hill, complaining about the possibility that if we desegregate, his kids would grow up in a racial jungle. What in the act? Can you imagine the hell Bernie would have caught from the establishment? No, matter of fact, you don't have to imagine. I remember that Bernie said a statement that they took completely out of context, where he said something to the effect of, many people don't understand the plight of black people. Or then he said something like, black people are more likely to be pulled over or something like that, like a statistical fact. That if you listen to what he was saying, he was actually trying to sympathize and create sympathy for a situation specifically regarding black people. And somehow that got taken as Bernie Sanders must be racist. But no. Joe Biden is this man who said this quote is now the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party. Now, I think that it is fair game when you're talking about Trump to bring up some of his racist practices while he was a property owner. But if we are going to bring that up, then let's be a little consistent. Because although Trump might have been clearly racist in his practices, Biden was not only racist in practice, was not only racist rhetorically, but was actually using his institutional power to encourage others to think the same and legislate the same as he thought and as he legislated. That is a different list. Why would I vote to get out Trump by introducing another Trump with the... I just don't get it. But this is also why I hold the belief, of course, that if you ask me to vote for Biden, or at least if you want to shame me for voting for Biden, then you need to check yourself and check your own privilege. Because what it seems like, no joke, he couldn't get the busing desegregation to be blocked, because they ended up, I think they did end up passing those busing laws. But also, he carried that into the 94 crime bill, right? He carried that mindset and that thought process into the 94 crime bill. He, along with Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and everyone who advocated for it, knew exactly who they were targeting with these crime bills, or with that crime bill and those amendments. They knew. And this is the man who authored it, defends it to this day, and still refuses to apologize for it. The man who said, I am worried my kids will grow up in a racial jungle. He said jungle at first, but he wanted to make sure that we all knew what he meant. He said, no, when I say jungle, I mean racial jungle. First of all, the jungle thing is a trope in and of itself, in case you didn't know. But that's what he was saying. You had, now granted, y'all know I don't like the identity politics, but if we're just thinking from the mindset of a Democratic Party, you had a black man, black woman, Latino, Polynesian woman, a Native American. Sorry, I couldn't resist, y'all. I couldn't resist. An Indian woman. Okay, you had Christians, Jews, Catholics, and Hindus alike. Young women, older women. But you decide that the best person for you to cheat for in this Democratic primary was the 80-year-old literal segregationist. You reap what you sow. But don't come crying to me for my vote when he has shown no repentance whatsoever. He doesn't care. Because you all will continue to reward him. You all will continue to cheat for him. You all will continue to make excuses for him. He will continue to get away with everything he's gotten away with in the past. Hell, he's a 2-time loser because of his record in the past. And he knew that if he kept playing ball, my record doesn't matter, because my time will come. And look what happens. He's still the nominee. Imagine being able to say that your kids could potentially, being a leftist, quote unquote, saying that your kids will potentially grow up in a racial jungle if we desegregate. and then knowing that in that same party that touts this diversity and inclusivity, that you could be the nominee one day, even if you said something like that. That's a level of privilege that few people that look like me will never understand. A lot of people like yourselves will never get to have. That's a different type of privilege. But make no mistake about it, Joe Biden is every bit as bad as Donald Trump and then some. I know he's suffering from memory loss after 3 sentences into his conversation, but I haven't forgotten. So it's okay, Joe. I can remind you of exactly who you are. And we will continue to remind you in the Democratic Party of exactly who you are for the rest of this election. Because I'll be damned if y'all try to make me pick between evil and evil again. And I'll be damned if I will let y'all try and convince anyone else that there is some type of clear difference in who takes office. Like Joe Biden would somehow be better for this country and better for black people and better for minorities. When we have seen historically, that is absolutely not the case. Racist asshole who is a literal segregationist. So, we'd love to know what your thoughts are about this. Like this video, share this video, leave a comment below. But always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. If you like that segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa, don't forget to like the video and smash that subscribe button. Want access to members only live streams, behind the scenes footage, and other premium content? Well, you can endorse us on Rockman Premium, become a patron through Patreon, or you can sign up for the MCSC Premium membership through YouTube. All the links are in the description below. But hey, more than anything else, always remember,
find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.
peace.